Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Gunners Town Pub. You're joining James. Hi, James.
Hello, mate. How are you doing tonight?
And Mervyn.
Good evening, guys.
And Mark.
What's your Paul? Deja vu.
For the Deja Vu version of the Postmatch Pubcast. We just watched, a fairly tight game, Arsenal draw to Manchester United at the Emirates. And was, it was an interesting game. I'm sure there's enough to talk about. We had a bit of a false start. We're going to start again. Mark, we had some injury news just before kickoff. And how did that, you want to just talk us through that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously when it came out that Xhaka was out of the team, I mean, that was a big surprise because there was nothing to say that was going to happen. Tierney failed fitness test yesterday, which is not a massive surprise at the moment. And obviously Aubameyang, I wouldn't be expecting to have seen him back today. But still, the three players out, I think meant a lot of people sort of were quite despondent. You know, United have got basically their full team out, not really missing anyone. So I think people were thinking we were going to be up against it. And I think the game showed really that missing those three players was probably the difference between the draw that we got and winning it. In my mind, if we'd have had Xhaka and Tierney, I think we'd have won that game. I just think they would have made the difference that was needed, and we'd have got it. But yeah.
So despite those key players not being in the team, when you looked at the team sheet, it still felt like we had maybe enough to do something, to pull a result in this. James, did you feel that? I mean, I felt quite comfortable with how they performed, these guys, without Aubameyang, without Tierney before,
Yeah, I mean, I looked at the team sheet and to be honest, I've got to disagree, mate. I don't think we had quite enough there to get a win from this game. I know United went into this off the back of that awful result at home to Sheffield United, but I still think they're a really, really dangerous side. And if anything, that gave them more of an incentive to really go gun-ho in this match. And when I looked at the team that we put out, I just think we were missing too many players in too many key positions and players that have just been so crucial to the way we played. I think it's all right when you're playing the likes of Southampton, but even then we had Xhaka available, who is such a difference maker in the final third of the pitch for us, and just taking him out. Thought Pepe very, very well on the right hand side. Thought Martinelli, you're still seeing a player that's still getting up to the top speed of his game. Then of course we even lost him at half time, so it was really not smooth sailing for us. But I thought the group of players that were out there, even though they're not our first choice 11, I've still got to take my hats off to them. I thought they did really, really well. Even Willian did all right when he came on in the second half, which speaks absolute volumes. But I think you like Mark says, you bring Tierney, you bring Xhaka, even Aubameyang into that side, and you've got a very good chance of winning that game. They're three hugely important players. It's the equivalent of taking Son, Kane, and Aurier or Davis out of Spurs. It's the equivalent of taking Mane, Salah, and Robertson out of Liverpool. I mean, that's how important these players are to us. And when you put it in those terms and in that perspective, I think we've done very well to get a point tonight.
Yeah. And we had our chances, which I'm sure we can get to a little bit later. But I think a lot of this performance was built on the fact that there was a really solid defense again. We've seen Suarez has put in a couple of great performances. Luis, when he's good, can be great. Merv, what did you think about our defense in general? Let's start.
I thought the defense was solid. I thought they were put under quite a bit of pressure. United get men in and around the box. They like to they like to hit the deck in and around the box, invite tackles that might encourage them to hit the deck, shall we say. And I felt we handled it well. I was a little bit concerned, I think, with Martinelli. I'm not sure how on the pace he was. I was pleased he was there, obviously having lost Xhaka, Tierney. But I'm not sure that he's completely kind of match fit at the moment. A couple of times coming back, defending, helping out. He maybe didn't make the best decision, but again, he could spring a quick counter. So I can see the point. I think Suarez played well. I think Holding is game after game being fairly solid. I know that he divides opinion on the Arsenal Twitter threads, but I think he's been relatively solid. And Luis had a good game. I mean, I know that Neville made him man of the match, and he did step in at a few crucial times. And I felt that he leads the line. He's got the experience to kind of, he gives confidence. And Leno, when he was called on, made an excellent save. So I think defensively, given that United have been winning games with just one or two goals that maybe coming late in games and stuff, I felt that they did well not to concede any fouls that might encourage Oliver to give a penalty, free kick on the edge of the box. And I think, bar the one or two scrapes we had a bit of luck with, I think it was quite sound. And they were helping to kind of move the ball out quickly.
And Leno, put in a couple of decent saves, kind of goal-saving things. And speaking of Martinelli, I mean, Martinelli had two crucial defensive, what would you call them, interventions.
Yeah.
One I thought was really funny because Rashford had literally the leg was wound up and he was all ready to release it.
Yeah.
And, the next thing the ball was gone under a Brazilian cloud and a blur. Mark, do you have anything to say about Leno's performance today and in general?
Oh, in general, he's been one of our best players of the season. He's not made many mistakes. When we went through the dodgy patch, I think maybe he struggled a little bit because the whole team was struggling, and certainly the defence was in front of him. But we've been a lot more solid of late, and when he's had to do something, he's done it without a doubt. He makes some great saves. The one that he did from Fred, that was a fantastic leap to get his arms out to reach that. And I think he did really well with the one where Rashford had the ball and he came out and made it really, really difficult for Rashford to do anything in the box, and they had to sort of go back to the edge then. So Leno's without a doubt been one of our better players this season, and I've got absolutely no concerns about him being our number one at the moment. He's in my opinion, he's more than enough to be the goalkeeper for a team that wants to challenge for top four and further. Right.
Which is a good thing because if he'd been injured, apparently Matt Ryan was also injured and he wasn't available. So it's been a crazy week. Just as a side thread chat. When you look at the table, and I mean, it's starting to resolve itself a little bit, but in the last week or two, it's been quite frustrating because this team's played 20, this team's played 16, this has got 18, these two have played 19. There've been all these let-offs and these reschedulings, because of teams, unable to, field a full team or whatever, a reduced squad because of COVID. And then I thought of today where we've had 5 or 6 injuries and, in the last few days, that have basically stopped us from being able to field our best team. It's kind of weird. I almost feel like if you can't field a team, then you should forfeit the game. You know what I mean? I don't know. Is that a bit harsh, James? What do you think? These teams being given time, like City, Villa. We've got 2 players with COVID, and therefore we given a rain check. Play you at a more opportune moment. Is it just because of the pandemic? Am I being stupid?
No, I don't think you're being stupid at all, mate. I just think it's such a tough call for whoever has to make those decisions to make, really. I mean, you look back to that FA Cup game, Villa against Liverpool, where Villa, the whole team went down a bit and then they had to field their kids. I wish, there was a way if teams had, say, 5 or more cases within the camp, then, you get to play that fixture at a later date. But it's just such a difficult to make. We've already started the season, we're trying to cram so many games in. I think if they started doing that, from their point of view, the logic would be there'd be such a backlog of fixtures, the season could end up going on forever. So, no, I totally see your point, but I just think it's just, I can't see it happening in a minute.
Merv mentioned a little bit earlier about, their tendency to want to dive, and they did. I mean, let's face it, they dove a lot in the game. But there were some interesting moments, some heated moments in the beginning with, a flailing arm, I think, caught Fernandez, Xhaka's hand, and Fernandez, got his little rat face on and he got all offended. And, he was running around, he had the red mist, and then he scraped his boot down the back of Xhaka's Achilles, which they then watched on VAR and decided it wasn't worth looking at. Merv, do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I don't want to say VAR's bias or anything, but
no, God forbid.
It's VAR can't. It's technology. It's the humans behind it. I just think that Xhaka kind of had it been Xhaka doing it on Fernandez, I mean, you would have seen a lot more made of it. I think the reaction, it's a bit like Smith Rowe in the Newcastle Cup game, where the referee was possibly swung by the player's reaction on that tackle as opposed to anything else. And I think Jacko, for all his faults, he often doesn't like it showing when he's been hurt. And I think it would have been very easy for him, and I think there are one or two players around the league who would have made a lot more of that. And whether that swayed VAR, I don't know. I mean, the people interpreting it are human, so it's. I mean, spinning on to the second half, Maguire on Lacazette with the free kick on the edge of the box where we nearly scored. I just feel Holding on Louise would have had a card for that.
Yeah. No, it did feel like, even when they show replays, I don't know what it is, like the commentators, it happened in the Liverpool, was it Liverpool against United recently, like a couple of days ago? And I think there was a pass to Firmino on the halfway line, and I think, it was Tottenham-Liverpool, and Dyer was holding Firmino back.
Yes.
And the ball bounced off Dyer's arm, and Dyer was literally holding Firmino like he was like some kind of rucksack. It hit his arm, then it hit Firmino's arm, and then it went into another player, and then to another player, and then a great through ball, and Salah went in and ended up, scoring a fantastic goal. And they took it back there, and they watched this thing 40 or 50 times, it seemed like on TV, and somehow they only saw the one handball, which was the second one, which made the goal disallowed. And there's moments like that you just have to scratch your head and go, what are these people seeing? But talking about those kind of incidents, there was an incident obviously late in the game, I think around the 90th minute, where Maguire and Lacazette had a coming together. Mark, this is a problem, I think, in the Premier League, and we're going to see somebody, with a broken neck. Do you want to talk us through that incident?
Well, I think it's been a fairly big talking point all season because of, particularly for us. I mean, because it's Harry Kane's trademark move that he does, where he makes no attempt to win the ball, but makes sure he gets his back in and knocks the player who then attempts to go for the ball come down really badly, and someone is going to dislocate a shoulder or something like that from one of these, because these players are coming down from fair height onto pitches that, particularly in the winter, as they said on Sky, they're not as soft as they were in the old days when they'd have been a bit muddy. These pitches are still fairly solid, so someone is going to really hurt themselves, and they need to get on top of it. But of course, on one hand, we're a bit more obsessed about it because we're Arsenal fans, and predominantly we all despise Kane. And on the other end of it, Kane is the golden boy of English football, so therefore, maybe they're not going to talk about it, and because he's the main person doing it. But they will need to look at it. I mean, you see how they react to other things. So the concussion sub, they reacted pretty quickly. What was it the other day? The offside, the forward coming back from offside in the Man City game. They've then brought out some new guidance on that, so they can react to these things quickly. But they've just got to be, actually be bothered to do it, and they have to do something about it, because you saw today that in fairness, Lacazette did it to Pogba just a few minutes earlier. Lacazette did exactly the same thing to Pogba.
Yeah,
Pogba came down. And then, Harry Maguire did virtually the same thing, slightly different, but virtually the same thing to Lacazette, and Lacazette looked like he took quite a bad landing. And yeah, it was the 93rd minute, which makes it a bit easier. But if that was the 33rd minute, you got to play an hour without your first choice centre forward. So it's a poor challenge, and it's one of them ones where you sort of think the professionals and the ex-pros should actually be saying more about it, because they know it's poor. They know that's a cowardly thing to do. So the people like Neville and Carragher and all that should be calling it out and then putting the pressure on to get something done about it before someone gets hurt.
Right. You saw Kane kind of got his comeuppance because it backfired on him when he tried it on Jordan Henderson, I think, in that same match. He tried to back into him and Henderson didn't fall for it. And I think Kane ended up falling on his own legs and maybe out for a little while, which, shame. So sorry for him.
Real sorry about that.
Yeah, it was so sad. So Lacazette, obviously, he got medical attention and then he came off, and then Eddie came on. I was wondering during the game, James, did you feel like Arteta was a bit slow in making the changes that he did? I think the first one was Martin Odegaard. Willian came on in half-time. I'm not sure exactly what Martinelli's, what the reason he was off. I missed that. And then so Willian came on, Odegaard came on around 83rd minute, and Eddie came on with like a minute and a half or 2 minutes to go. What did you think of Arteta's substitution timings and choices and for today?
Yeah, I just thought they were. He didn't have much choice, did he? Looking at that bench we had, the only real one you were looking at with any sort of inspiration was Odegaard. Apart from that, you got Willian, who, like I said previously, came on and put a shift in. I thought it was probably his best performance since the game against Fulham. Like I say, it's not saying much, but he had that opportunity to score, which I'm sure we'll get onto later, and he did create a very good chance of Pepe, which on another day could have gone in. And I thought he worked harder than he has done in previous games, which has been the real talking point of his criticism lately, and he definitely did seem to work a bit harder for me. But that was a change we were forced into. Odegaard, I'd like to have seen him come on a bit earlier. I just don't think things were clicking for Smith Rowe today. Thought he did some very good things. He makes the game look seamless at times. Very, very silky player, but his final ball just wasn't there. Maybe Odegaard coming in the 60th or the 70th minute would have given us something just a bit different. And Nketiah, again, is just another one that was forced, unfortunately. I thought it looked lively for the 3 minutes he was on. But again, can't really judge him too much on the minutes he did have. But yeah, like I say, not too much to choose from, unfortunately.
Right. So Willian, after 12 minutes or so, he looked like he'd fallen ill with something. McTominay had that. I wasn't sure what it was. He looked pretty green. I thought maybe Willian had got it from him, but I don't think that's possible. But Willian looked better after he got sick. Funny enough, he seemed to have found a different gear. But I think we spoke last time. At least we were together, Merv. We spoke about Odegaard. He was about to be signed. I don't think he'd been signed yet. But we were also talking about how Arsenal seem to have found these small pods of people that were connecting and being quite effective. And obviously Saka was quite a central part of that attacking pod. And Tierney and Aubameyang had kind of formed, something like that on the left. Do you think, from what I saw when Odegaard came on, it looks like he might add like another... I liked seeing him with Smith Rowe. I liked seeing him on the field. I'd love to see him forming those little, micro parts. What's the word for it? I've lost my language today. Do you want to talk about Odegaard and his
triangles? Firstly, I think. Now I'm on this pod, I start making notes on my phone during the game. One of the things that early on I felt that was saying about Smith Rowe wasn't quite his usual self. I think those kind of little passing triangles, those partnerships weren't there. I think he's got a good one with Xhaka. I think they kind of understand each other. And I think with Martinelli, he's obviously building that up. I think that, one of the things that I was disappointed with is that, after Wan-Bissaka was booked, and it's a tactical game. I felt that maybe if they could swap Pepe and Willian, there was a second yellow there for the making. And possibly, if Saka was on, if Martinelli had stayed on, they could have given Wan-Bissaka a choice. I know Willian got a free kick on the edge of the box off of him, but yeah, if we're going to be tactical, there was possibly the opportunity to run at him a lot more. I think that Emil Smith-Rowe wasn't quite as we have seen him, and that's going to happen. He's a young player. We don't know how fit he was. He took a knock the other night. But I think he still looks class when he gets the ball, when he looks up, he's looking to pick a pass. And I think, that's important. I think Ødegaard, we obviously didn't see a lot. And I wondered if there was a bit of reticence on Arteta's part to not wanting to give him too long, because he's only really been in training for a day and a half. So maybe, if he'd have brought him on with half an hour, 40 minutes to go, it might have exposed him a bit. He's not played a lot of football recently. So I thought like a 10-minute kind of, introduction to the Premier League, and this is a game against the top side. I thought it worked well. He looked very neat. He looked very comfortable. I think that he looked like somebody who is going to be able to link well with Tierney, with Xhaka, with Aubameyang, with Smith-Rowe, and Pepe, hopefully, who maybe, again, he wasn't, there was an improvement, of course, at Southampton. He was there tonight a couple of times. He should have turned one way, but he didn't. He went the other way. But I think that there seems to be a bit more confidence coming to his play.
Right.
But I think on the left side, left to middle side, we're looking much more positive. And I'm old enough to go back to the late 70s with the old Terry Neal. Everybody knows we're a left-sided team. I don't think we're quite going there yet. But I think that obviously the left-hand side, particularly with Tierney, with Xhaka, with Aubameyang, might be where we're quite fruitful in future. One thing I must say, which has nothing to do with this, but about the final substitution with Lacazette and Nketiah, is they put the board up with 9 and 30. And I was watching it with my son and my wife, and her first reaction was, "Oh, I thought this game was nearly over. It was 1.5 minutes." Used to seeing the board going up for kind of how much injury time there is. So I had to get that in. I'm sorry. She'll never listen to this, so it's okay.
It was interesting what you're saying about Wan-Bissaka, being on the yellow and under pressure, and and another reason to maybe put Pepe on that side. At least I would have liked to have seen him there in this game. Is that he played? When he was playing off the left in the last game, he seemed really effective. It made him quicker. He didn't take. He seemed to be snappier and a lot sharper on the left. And so your comment about the left getting stronger with Aubameyang and Tierney and Xhaka. Xhaka's also been so effective on the right. I think both sides are starting to, I think we've got more options being presented, which is good. Mark,
I think there was a point, sorry to jump in again. It's not
no worries.
There was a point I saw somebody make on Twitter, and I can't remember who, about Suarez and Pepe. Was it in the cup game against Southampton or the game before that? With Bellerin wasn't there, Suarez played on the right. He hugs the touchline a lot more than Bellerin, which gives Pepe more license to move inside.
Right. Yeah, no, I think Suarez has proved that he's quite flexible. But moving to the midfield, I think a lot of our ability, to control the game, which we did for a long time, was down to the role that Xhaka and Partey had. Mark, what did you think of that? Do you want to talk us through that midfield axis?
Yeah, I'm sure Cookie's quite keen, waiting for me to talk about Jacko. Me and him have various differences of opinion on Granit Xhaka. Granit Xhaka, I thought he had a very good game today. I go back to, I think it was James that said about when Fernandes caught him on the Achilles. If he was the sort of player that had made more out of that, you never know. But that's not what Xhaka does. He just gets on with it. He played really well today. He was neat. He was tidy. Played some good passes. Strangely, Partey, I thought that's probably one of the weaker games that I've seen him play for us in terms of his passing. He had one lovely break that he made in the first half where he eased away from the midfield and he just kept going basically, and a bit of a poor shot at the end of it. But yeah, his passing seemed really off today, and he played a lot of misplaced passes that went astray, and he got caught. He's one of those players where he's going to try and break their press by dribbling through it at times, and he's good enough to do that. But if he gets caught, he's kind of like in and around that sort of 30 yards from the box, so it's a bit of a risk. And there was at least one of those where he done it. So I think they did well. I don't think they had to be superb. I mean, I couldn't for the life of me, when you can quite clearly see McTominay's got a bad case of the Spurs, why they left him on so long, that was a very bizarre decision. So I don't think they needed to do too much, particularly in that first half. Second half, once McTominay had got off and they brought Pogba in, it was going to be a bit more difficult for them. But I thought they both played really well. But Partey, I think if Partey had stepped up and and we'd have had Xhaka and we'd have had Tierney, I think we'd have won that game. I've got no doubt in that. But just a bit unfortunate. Partey didn't quite seem to have the passing today, but Jacko played really well. How's that, James? Was that okay?
Yeah, bang on, mate.
Are you a Xhaka fan, or which one of you is and which of you isn't, or are you both?
James rates Xhaka, and I understand why a lot of people are doing that. I personally, I don't think he's good enough to play for Arsenal, but it's a debate that people can have. And Xhaka's put in a good performance today, and that's when he proves people like me wrong. And he's just got to carry on doing that, for as long as he gets the chance. That's all you can ask of him, is to carry on trying to do that. I think it's when he plays games where he doesn't try and go forward, that's when he really struggles. When he wants to go forward and he's playing forward passes and coming forward with the ball a bit more, he looks a much better player. But when he's playing, like, I really worry sometimes when he plays with El Nene, because I just think that just encourages him to be far too safe, and then that's not really his game. But he did well today.
James, you got anything to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jacko, his first couple of seasons, he didn't really make things too easy for himself. He didn't make it easy for people to like him because he had so many stupid challenges. Got a few red cards, lost the ball in dangerous places, conceded a couple of goals, couple of penalties. And like I say, didn't make it easy to like him. But he's a player that, whether it be under Wenger, Emery, Ljungberg, Arteta, he's always remained a constant in his Arsenal team. And I think if you were to take him out of Arsenal and put him into, say, Man City instead of Rodri, I still think he'd excel in a team like that. I think he's a very good player at what he does. And alongside someone like Partey, I think he's playing his best football this season. And 28 years old, he's in the prime of his footballing career. And, he has made one stupid mistake, that red card he got earlier in the season. But apart from that, I think he's been very solid, very consistent throughout. He's actually playing the ball forward like a hell of a lot more than I've seen from him in previous years. And I think he's a key part of our attacking play. And he's first name on the team sheet for me in a minute.
Right. I tend to agree. I found that it's the quiet, it's the not glorious things that these guys seem to be doing quite well, which is so Partey would he's had some loose passes. Same with Rob Holding. You can criticize him for the one or two loose passes. Leno had a couple of clearances in the last game, and this one went straight into touch. Those things, they stick out because they're obvious. But for me, it's those little the unspoken things, like being in position, making the intercept, just being in the right place for that cutback, being, as a defensive unit. I feel that there's a lot of things that we obviously are doing well that are, that we haven't conceded. I mean, I think we got the best, or one of the best defensive records right now in the league. And I think, where before I used to get really anxious when there was a lot of pressure, and there were times that I felt we dropped off a little bit too much and soaked up a lot of pressure. But, in general, I felt like I don't feel that same sense of panic that I had in those kind of Pete Mustafi years, even Louise and stuff. When there was a lot of pressure, you just felt like something was going to give. How do you what do you put that down to, Merv? Is that coaching? Is that something that Arteta's managed to bring to the team?
I think it's coaching. I think that they have worked out or designed a way to defend that plays to the strengths of the players who are in there. Luis, on a day like today, is a leader. He drives forward. He can organise. He tells people where to be. And I think United did put a lot of balls into the box. There are a lot of times in the second half and towards the end of the first half where the ball comes in. You think, it's going to be a ricochet. There's going to be but they dealt with everything. And defensively, I think they're a lot stronger. And the fullbacks have changed a bit. Hector's missed a couple of games. Obviously, Tierney hasn't been there. Gabriel was there doing well. He was then out and then stepped back in for a game and then out again. So there has been some rotation. But I think that it's a very solid back five. I think going to a flat back four has helped them to an extent because they take a different shape. Once they move forward in possession, the shape changes. But I think that they are defending, I won't say properly, but they are defending the way we would want them to defend. And they are the second best, in terms of goals conceded, the second best in the league at the moment. And I think a lot of it's probably work on the training ground and actually having, I think for me, there's been a big difference, obviously, since the Christmas kind of shake-up where the team kind of changed the next day for Boxing Day, and it's kind of, we've been on a bit of a roll since, except for the cup game against Southampton, where we maybe slipped a little bit back to the kind of team and performance that we saw before Christmas. But I think this is all part of the new kind of second half of the season way we're approaching things. I think they were getting a bit bogged down before. People didn't. I'm not sure the people were coming in. Team was changing, and I'm not sure everybody knew what their best position was. And I think they need that dynamism. I agree. I didn't think Thomas Partey was as good today as I've seen him, and it might be he's not match fit. It might be he's only really just come back after an injury. But even so, there was a dynamism. Granit Xhaka, as James and Mark have said, played his role. He knew where to be. He knew what to do with the ball. And I think that helped. The Partey driving it forward a bit more obviously helped us push on to them more. And I think, good defence starts in the middle. It starts with the attack, effectively. But I think the pressing was good today. I think Lacazette put in a shift. And I think that all that helps.
Yeah, we've been a lot more comfortable playing out from the back. Mark, you must have noticed that progression since the days of, because a lot of teams are doing that. But there've been some pretty hair-raising moments. Now that I've watched a few of these, of us playing out from the back, and I've been pretty impressed. I mean, how easily we've managed to break out of a high press, and Manchester United did press us quite a lot today. Is there a question?
Yeah.
I think so.
No, I mean, I think it's a tactic that worries a lot of fans, particularly when we first started doing it, because we weren't particularly good at it. When Leno got injured and Martinez came in, Martinez seemed to be particularly adept at playing that. Maybe he was just better with the ball at his feet than Leno was. And that was one of the big pluses when Martinez came in. But no, they seem to have settled down to it a bit more now. There's less scary moments. There's still the odd one now and then. But the good thing is that they don't just permanently stick at doing it. Sometimes they will try and break the press by going a bit longer and going over the press. So it's nice to see that we'll mix it up rather than just being too focused on it. Because I think at one stage we were just continually trying to do it, even when it wasn't working. And I know you kind of practice makes perfect, and there's no better practice than a match itself. But there comes a point where you've got to think about what you're doing and is it actually working, and maybe you need to just rethink it. But no, they seem to be doing it pretty well, and I think it does help that the back four has been a lot more settled as well, as was said earlier. I think there's less chopping and changing, except the ones that are obviously forced upon us.
Right. We supposedly have a set piece coach. I'm not sure that I've really seen the benefits of it this season. We had quite a few set pieces around the edge of their box, James. Just give us your rundown on those set pieces and the players lining up for them and how you thought they went. I mean, they had varying degrees of success, didn't they?
Yeah, I think not just attacking wise, but defensively, we seem to be a lot more adept at tackling set pieces, which is something I've always been worried about us coming up against, because we seem to have seen so many goals from corners, free kicks in the past, and that just doesn't happen anymore for us, thankfully. But going forward, yeah, it's good to see we've got a bit more of a routine, and we're actually putting better corners, better balls into the box on occasion. It's not always consistent, but something that's been really poor for us, ever since I've been watching Arsenal is our corners. They've never been particularly good. But now we seem to have a bit more of an understanding, a bit more of a plan with these corners. It's not just throwing it in the box and hoping that someone gets a head on it. I mean, that first, I can't remember if it was a free kick or a corner, but where Luis headed it back across goal, and all it really needed was for someone to tap it in. Brilliantly worked. Brilliantly worked.
That was amazing.
If we can nick a goal in these type of games where, there's going to be a few half chances for either side, set pieces are going to play a big part in us accumulating points when we've got tougher games along the road this season. So, yeah, if we can build on these good foundations we're getting on the set pieces, then hopefully it can do a big reward for us later down the line.
Yeah, Lacazette had a great free kick. Just seemed very nonchalant, but it was well placed. It came off the post or the crossbar, I think. But it definitely had De Gea beaten. And then there was, at the end of the last game, I think there was a free kick. And the game before, I think it was in the FA Cup. And I think Pepe had it, and, it was in the last dying moments of the game and kind of blasted it over. And Suarez kind of had a similar thing today. I do feel like there should be there needs to be a percentage, like in moments like that when it could change the entire game. There should be some kind of percentage play that keeps keeps the pressure on and doesn't just relieve it completely. So, and you guys probably agree. There's not a lot else I think that we need to discuss, but I was just wondering, the commentators on my channel, I think, had given David Luiz as man of the match. Merv, who was your man of the match?
I would probably go with Luiz. I think he was solid. He was a leader. There was nobody. It was the kind of game, had we scored one towards the end and won 1-0, then had Lacazette's free kick gone in, then he'd have been man of the match. But I think there were some very good, solid performances. Covered the fact that 2 or 3 of the players who've been very good for us recently weren't there. But I would have thought that in a game like that, in a goalless draw, I suppose the central defensive linchpin of the home team, who's kind of leads and kind of instructs everyone and puts himself on the line when needed, it tends to get the man of the match award. So I wouldn't personally quibble with that.
Mark?
I could from Twitter, I think a few did.
Yeah.
Right. Mark,
I mean, I agree with Merv to a certain extent. I think there were a lot that, it was one of those where it was a good, solid team performance. I think anybody stands out that much. I mean, you could, to be honest, if you're giving it to Luiz, I'm not sure why you couldn't give it to Holding, because I thought Holding played really well alongside him, and won, virtually every ball in the air that he needed to win, which he carries on doing. And, his passing, he hit one really poor pass that I think went out for a goal kick, and then 2 minutes later he hit the really nice one for Lacazette that Lacazette took down, and I think that was where we got the free kick from. So Holding had a good game, but they were all pretty solid. There were a few people I think just kind of got away with it. I mean, Jacko, as I said, Jacko played well. I think Bellerin could possibly do better. And Cedric was good, considering he's playing on the other side, and he's up against Rashford. He did quite well. So I think it was just a good team performance. So I think it's one of them ones where you don't really need to worry too much about who's man of the match.
Right. Yeah, I think everyone put in a pretty good performance. James, do you agree? Same.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the best thing about this performance for me, and what's been great about the other performances, is that players like Pepe, like Cedric, are coming into form. I mean, everyone writing off Cedric before he'd even really kicked the ball for us, and I think he's proving what a good and useful player he is. I mean, when you compare how poor, frankly, Ainsley Maitland-Niles was at left back, and when you put in Cedric, who's not a left back, and he's playing very, very well there against top players in the likes of Marcus Rashford. Came up against the top players in the game against Southampton. Very, very useful player to have in the team. And yeah, just to echo everyone else, David Luiz I thought was top draw tonight. He's a player that I didn't want to start this game. I wanted Gabriel in there instead, but he's made me eat my words. And yeah, really, really good from him. And yeah, no complaints at all from me, really.
Yeah, I think it was a very solid performance all round. You mentioned Maitland-Niles, which is today the last day of the transfer window, or is that tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
So there's been some transfer talk, mostly about outgoing and loans. Obviously, I'll let you discuss them. But three players I was thinking about was Mustafi, Maitland-Niles, and Nelson. The Mustafi one's interesting, Merv. Twitter's been quite funny of late.
Yes, yeah. I particularly like the Liverpool fan sites who genuinely seem to think that they're going to start scoring from free kicks again when he joins.
Yeah.
Mustafi's one of those players that we're not here to chew over the last 3 or 4 years, but there are times when I think, you know what, he's solid, he's playing good form, he puts himself on the line, and then he'll just do something, and you think, oh.
The clown shoes come out, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that it wouldn't surprise me if he was to go to Liverpool, because Klopp knows him. Klopp tried to sign him apparently about 10 years ago or something.
Different guy.
And it wouldn't surprise me. He goes there, he gets a Champions Medal, and it happens. The Maitland-Niles one is odd because I was WhatsApp chatting this morning to the guys I sit with, and I was a bit concerned about that, mainly because he's a young guy who's been with us all the time. He's an England international now. He stepped up in some big games like the cup final and semi-final and stuff. It's a shame, but the general thought was, look, he just doesn't, particularly the last couple of times when he's been on as left back, he's not really looked that interested, and I think he wants guaranteed playing time. And at the moment, I don't think he can get it with us.
So he's been linked with West Brom. Is that right?
West Brom and Southampton.
Okay.
There was a tenuous link with him to Manchester United this morning, but I don't think that was
Maitland-Niles.
Yeah, I think that was somebody on Twitter, kind of like trying to stir it up, trying to get some followers.
And then Mark, did you hear anything? Reece Nelson is possibly going out and learn somewhere. That would be pretty good.
I think the Reece Nelson, I don't know what's gone on there, to be fair. I know he's had a few injuries and that, but he just doesn't seem to be able to get a look in at all. So I think that, clearly Arteta has either already made a decision or the club needs to make a decision and get him out. He needs to at least go out on loan for the rest of this season. He has to go out on loan. There's just no point in him being at the club at the moment. He's not developing, so it's no good for him and it's no good for us. So he needs to go out on loan, as I would probably say Joe Willock does as well. Particularly now we've got another creative midfielder in. I think we can let Willock go out on loan because he needs to be playing too. Because odd minutes at the ends of games, he's not going to do it for him. If we didn't have the Balogun situation, I'd do the same with Eddie. I'd send him out somewhere where he can play and give Balogun his minutes. But I think the whole thing around Balogun just means that's not going to happen. Yeah, Maitland-Niles is a weird one. I wouldn't put too much into how the guy looks. He's always looked like that. He always looks like he's a stoner to me, and so I wouldn't base too much on that. And I thought it was a bit harsh the other day. He come back and he was playing left back in a flat back four, and he had a pretty ropey game. He did, but that's hard to just come in and play when you're not getting games. So again, I think with him, maybe it's just that his time at the club is maybe done. And look, we know we need to raise some money, so I think we need to get some players out on loan, get them in the shop window. I'm a big fan of lending players to clubs that you want to do business with. So I think Southampton, I wouldn't send Maitland-Niles to West Brom. What's he going to learn off of Fat Sam? And they've got no one we want, so sod that. Southampton, I'd say, loan him to Southampton and see if at the end of the season, they want to keep him, he wants to stay there. And, take James Ward-Prowse, and then James Ward-Prowse can be the first name on the team sheet instead of Xhaka. Send Nelson to Norwich, or Eddie to Norwich, or something. They're sort of progress for to get back promoted is sort of started to falter a little bit. Maybe they need something fresh. Send them out there, and again use them maybe in the summer to try and get Buendia if we still were interested in getting him. So I think we just need to cut some of these guys, get some of these guys out on loan, because it's not doing them any good, and it's not doing us any good either. Yeah,
we have a lot of players that have just probably 10 or so that just seem to play such tiny roles, and we've got them on salary, we've got them sitting on the bench, and that kind of energy that surely has to kind of it can't be great, I'd much rather have a leaner, meaner squad with like maybe 15, 16, 17 people that we use consistently, and then maybe like a bit player that we bring in for injuries, or somebody comes in and covered. But I think that we need to find our best team, or our best team and a half, and kind of stick to that. And I think that's what's given us these great results over the last, few games, is that we found something that works and kind of stuck to it. And I think we need to do that going forward. So we've got some difficult fixtures ahead. This one was obviously, I think a draw is a decent result. I mean, you all agree? I think considering the injuries and all that stuff, if we'd been offered that before the game, I think most of us would have.
In those circumstances, yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. Who have we got next, James? And do you want to just tell us what you think?
Yes, I mean, so we've got Wolves up next, which, away from home, Molineux, so it's like a really, really tough game. But I think given the way Wolves have been playing, I mean, they're so out of form. They lost to a very poor Palace team today. I mean, a poor Palace side that we drew against, but nonetheless, I mean, they lost today, and I think it just shows how much they're missing Jimenez. He plays such a crucial role in everything they do going forward, and losing him has really curtailed their season. So as bad as that's been for them, I think we've got such a good opportunity to go there. And if we've rested Team, rested Saka for today, it means we go to Wolves and get a really good performance and a really good 3 points with those two back in the 11, or at least in the team. Then I've just completely justified the team selection today. So I hope that's the case, and it will make tonight's point look an awful lot better. But I think we're definitely, have taken a point tonight if it means we'd get 3 against Wolves. But I think that's definitely a very, very winnable fixture for us.
You have a prediction?
I'll go 2-0 Arsenal.
2-0 is good. Merv?
I was about to say 2-0.
2-0, that's good.
Yeah, I'm quite confident. I think the Villa game after that might be tough, but having said that, Villa are inconsistent at the moment.
Is that away, Merv? Villa away? Sorry, I haven't looked at the sheet.
Oh yeah, it's Wolves away, Villa away, Leeds home. But we've got a week off between Villa and Leeds, and other teams have got FA Cup ties that week. So
what is that doing there?
Yeah, we should be fresh for Leeds, and then we've got City as our next game. But then the Europa League starts, and as I've said on an earlier point, I'm quite keen to prioritise the Europa League.
Yeah, although if we can carry on with this run of, maybe top 5 or 6 isn't out of the question. I feel like the season is strange, strangely unpredictable. I think that if we're like a couple of points behind Tottenham, and they've had the smoke blown up their arse all season about how fucking awesome they are. And, we're a couple of points behind with like maybe our worst season in 30 years.
Yeah.
That's always, makes it interesting. I think we're in with a chance of maybe making Europe like the hard way through the league. But you're right. I would love to win the European Cup.
I think to step on with the rebuilding we need, I think we need Champions League next season. It's possible through the league. And the Europa League won't be easy because, forgetting everybody else in Europe, there's Leicester and Spurs in it yet. But I would like, particularly if we're going to loan out, Nelson, Willock and players like that, Maitland-Niles, we're pretty much either going to have to throw it or we're going to have to play a strongish team.
Well, I think we're at that knockout stage. We're going to have to just play our our best team anyway. I'm sure that the kids are not going to be getting any gimme rubber duck games, for the rest of the season. So yeah, they need to go and get play somewhere else. Mark, Wolves, your thoughts?
No, I think as Cookie said, it's a tough game, but they seem to be going through a rocky phase at the moment. So I think now's probably as good a time to play them as ever. Playing them away without their fans there is easier. It's one of the grounds where I think it is easier to go without it being an away game with fans there, as we proved last season. So that'll help us, I'm sure. And just have to try and go there and do what we've been doing. Be solid and try and play our game up front. And I'm sure we can come away. I'd probably go 2-1 would be my prediction. James is just keen on those clean sheets. He loves a clean sheet. James.
Clean sheets are good. We've been pretty good with clean sheets compared to last year. I think I'd go with maybe 3-0.
All right, Jesus.
Yeah, nothing like a little bit of overconfidence. No, I think if we can get those players back, I think we're going to get better as the season.
I mean, to Merv's point about the Europa League, I think if we want to get in the Champions League, I think we have to win the Europa League. Yeah. I don't think we'll make top 4. I just think we've left ourselves with too much to do. And as weird a season as it is, and our teams keep dropping points, I just think that there will be 4 teams that will get more points than us. So I think top 4 might be too much. It'll only go Europa League for next season would only go to 6th place if someone in the top 4 wins the cup. So we've kind of, which is normally what happens, but yeah, we've got to try and get to. I think 6th and 5th is minimum really. It's what we've really got to try to. I just think 4 will be too much.
Yeah,
I still think we could. I feel like I'm being overly optimistic here, but I think in such a topsy-turvy season where the likes of Burnley are beating Liverpool at Anfield. I'm not saying we're going to finish ahead of Liverpool, but there's so much inconsistency in this league. And if you look at how things have gone going into this year, we're one of very few teams that's actually showing remarkable consistency. So if we can keep that up until May, which I think is going to be massive ask. We're already losing players like flies at the minute, but if we can do it, I think the margins are so small. If we can do it, I think just got to put a run together, and come April or May, if we're 3-4 points off, then it could come down to the last day. I really think we've got a squad that I can believe in. I really think we can do it.
I hope you're right, mate. I hope you're right. I think that might be a little bit of your heart over your head there, but I just kind of think, even with the weird season it is, and like you saw Man United, I mean, who'd have thought Man United were going to lose at home to Sheffield United, and as you said, Liverpool lose at home to Burnley. There are some weird results being thrown in there. I think there are some teams that are probably having less weird results, and whilst we've done really well since Christmas and that, I think we may have just left ourselves a little bit too much to do. Particularly considering a lot of teams have got game in hands on us.
Yeah,
depends what they do with those games in hand, obviously. But
if we are able to beat, say, a Leicester away or a City at home, then I think I'd be able to back what I'm saying a bit more. But if we say play City at home and we get battered 3-0, then that'd probably bring me back down a lot more to reality. It's just from what I've seen recently, where we played so well and we're showing that consistency. Just results like today, even though we've not won, but we've turned up, we've played really well. We're just seeing a team that's actually showing all of the things that we were missing so many weeks ago. I think just bringing that all together, getting a big win over the likes of City or Leicester away, a result like that, I think it could really put us in the right direction of getting a top 4 finish. I know it's a big ask, but I think just one result like that could change things.
Mate, you got me believing now. I'm believing.
What? As much as we've all been criticizing them the whole season, if Willian and Pepe start to shine and produce the kind of things that we know that they are capable of, if for instance they can build on the last couple of performances that they've had, then we're not going to look at a lineup and go like, Jesus, Arteta's, why is he putting those guys on the team sheet? These, rejects, whatever, like the old guys. Give the youth a chance. I mean, if we can find that balance that we should have on paper, I think that we found our groove, and I think that groove could get deeper and deeper and maybe more effective. Touch wood. Let's hope that's how it works. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining me in this pub.
It's a pleasure.
And, it was great to have you all. And you will all be around in the next couple of games, so hopefully catch you on the rebound.
Yeah.
Dear Arsenal. Good night, guys.
See you later.